Hey everyone, welcome back to the Pylon Cam. This week, in this episode, we are going to do our Week 2 power rankings. Very excited for this video. We haven't done one of these yet on the channel. We did release our Week 1 power rankings out on Instagram. Those are out there if you want to go look back and see how we did the first week. And going into Week 2, I think 3 teams remain the same. And I think that Week 1 to Week 2 is the biggest leap we're going to see for this segment. Just because Week 1 predictions or power rankings are based off of preseason, where I think that's the hardest it is to gauge what teams actually look like. And in Week 1, there are a lot of injuries out of the gate, which change the landscape of the entire team. And I'm basically talking directly at the Baltimore Ravens. Excuse me. But yeah, so let's go get into it. We're going to talk about the teams 32 through 26, starting with the New York Jets. The New York Jets didn't look okay. No, they looked bad, and Zach Wilson didn't look horrible, but his stat line is way better than how he actually played. The offensive line was terrible. Zach Wilson got sacked, I think, 6 times, and he got lucky only throwing 1 interception and only having 1 fumble that they didn't lose. Mekhi Becton's out for, I think, 6 to 8 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks. So the Jets to me, are going to have the hardest time scoring, and they're going to have the hardest time stopping people from scoring, especially in the AFC East, being that it's such a dominant defensive division. Number 31, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Urban Meyer is the worst head coach in the entire NFL. How you could just give the ball to Carlos Hyde more than you could give it to James Robinson pretty much tells the whole story in and of itself. They were able to score points, but I think that's due to the personnel they have on offense. And before we talk to the next team, I should back up. Red, the color scheme, red meaning they have regressed since week 1, and green meaning they moved up since week 1. So, next team, ranked 30, previously ranked 27, the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons have the worst defense in the NFL, and their offense isn't bad by any means, but Matt Ryan looked terrible. This team is going to have to bounce back. They're in a tough division. I think I had them pegged at projected for 4 or 5 wins. And that is looking like very, very accurate at this point. When we talk about the Eagles, we'll get to it. But I think the Eagles exceeded almost everybody's expectations. Coming in at rank 29, previously 31st, the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, I think, scored more points than anybody could have ever predicted, being they're so thin at wide receiver, and Terrell Williams actually is in concussion protocol from that game. He was the Lions wide receiver 1. They do have Amon-Ra St. Brown operating out of the slot, and they're using DeAndre Swift pretty much solely as a pass catcher out of the backfield. But the Lions looked good. They looked way better than people were expecting. Coming in at rank 28, previously ranked 23, Carolina Panthers. Some of the teams that won did move down. I think I took into account heavily who they played and how they performed against who they played, and I was expecting more of a dominant performance from the Panthers. And they just did it. I kind of expected Carolina's defense is so young, being that it was the youngest defense in 2020. But I did expect the offense with Christian McCaffrey, with Robbie Anderson, with DJ Moore, and the new rookie Terrace Marshall, who looks really well. I expected them to perform better, and they only managed, I think, 18 points or 17 points. So not too impressed by them. So they move down from 23 to 28. Houston Texans definitely move up. I think everybody had them as 0-17 or 1-16. Previously ranked 32nd. They come in this week at rank 27. But the Texans shocked a lot of people, and I think they ruined almost everybody's parlay in the entirety of sports betting. Tyrod Taylor did his best Deshaun Watson impression and scored over 30 points. So, I mean, they did play the Jaguars, and I really went back and forth of who I thought was worse, the Jaguars or the Jets. I edged out the Jets being worse because the Jaguars have way more weapons on offense. And they have the veteran in Matt Ryan. But the Texans did not look bad. I mean, they did play a pretty crappy defense, but they justifiably move up a good amount of spots. And then coming in at number 26, previously ranked 20, I have Washington football team. Biggest reason for them to drop so far, they did play the Chargers, who I have very high expectations for. The Ryan Fitzpatrick is out. He's on the IR for at least 8 weeks with a hip injury. And Taylor Heineke is coming in and taking the reins. And I don't know what to expect with Taylor Heineke as a full-time starter. We did see him almost upset the Bucs in that the divisional round of the playoffs in 2020, but I'm not a huge believer in Taylor Heineke. I don't think he even looked that sharp in preseason. But this could be a huge deal for Washington and make them a better team because of it. But their defense did not look as good as people were expecting. It still is great. Don't hear what I'm not saying. They still have a great defense, but their defense did not look nearly as good as it was advertised. But to talk about the next batch of teams, coming in at 19 through 25, I have at ranked 25, previously ranked 18, the Minnesota Vikings. The way I'm looking at this is why I'm having the Vikings plummet down the power rankings for week 2 is because this is a team that the roster severely outclasses the Cincinnati roster, and the Bengals were able to take them into overtime and beat them. And I bet if you follow this channel, if you follow the podcast, you know I harp a lot on Kirk Cousins not being a good real-life quarterback. He does do a good job of cushioning stats for fantasy, but in real life, he just cannot win big games. And apparently, he can't win any game, being that he just lost the Cincinnati Bengals. They have a better offensive line. They have better skill position players. Well, they're kind of equal on offense, but I would edge out Dalvin Cook over Joe Mixon, and I would take Justin Jefferson and a veteran in Adam Thielen over the more promising prospects in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase and T. Higgins will be better, but as of right now, I'm taking the Vikings skill position players. And the Vikings by far have a better offensive line and better defense. So there's no reason they should go and lose this game. It's because of I blame Kirk Cousins because that you're a veteran quarterback. You should be able to go in and lead your team to a victory over a very young and still developing Bengals team. Coming in at number 24, previously 24, we have the Chicago Bears. And I think the subject of discussion for the Chicago Bears is when does Justin Fields start? Because this is the issue I see on the horizon for the Chicago Bears. In football, to be a successful coach and to be a successful team, you need to have a good locker room and you need to be able to maintain the locker room, a good locker room vibe. That's definitely not the right way to put that. But my point is, if you continue to start Andy Dalton, your locker room is going to think, well, are we really trying to win every game by not starting Justin Fields? Because Justin Fields adds so many more elements to this offense. He has a better arm than Andy Dalton, and now you open up the RPO style offense where you're never going to have that with Andy Dalton. So I think that the Bears will stay at 24, but once Fields come in, my prediction is week 3. I've settled on that. I think it's going to be week 3 when Justin Fields gets the nod as the full-time starter. I think the Bears could then start to move up, and this NFC North looks pretty horrible all around. So keep an eye on the Bears. Coming in at number 23, previously 17, I have the New York Giants. If you told me that you could put Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay, and those two players on the same team, and in one game they would combine for less than 100 yards, I would call you an idiot if they were on any other team that's not the New York Giants. But because they are on the New York Giants, and because Jason Garrett is calling plays, calling stick concept routes that don't even reach the sticks, this team is going to suck for as long as Jason Garrett's there. So they moved down to 17. If you follow the channel, if you follow the podcast, I have the Giants to win the NFC East, which is why I'm a little bit passionate about this, because I don't want to be wrong with my point or prediction that the Giants are going to win the division. But with Jason Garrett, it's not looking bright. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. let's talk about a team who clearly has a good play caller and a good coaching hire in the Philadelphia Eagles. Because Nick Sirianni outcoached and contained the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons have one of the most explosive, dynamic offenses in the NFL with Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley, and Russell Gage, and Matt Ryan, who throws for 4,000 yards every single year, and they held them to 3 points. So Nick Sirianni and the Eagles move up from rank 29 to 22, and I think that they're slowly becoming, again, it was against the Falcons, and I do factor in who the teams played. They did play the Falcons, who in my opinion have a bottom 5 defense, and I think that if they could keep pace, if they could keep doing what they're doing, they could be a dark horse to win the division, because I think everybody, including myself, had the Eagles finishing last. But Nick Sirianni looks like a good coach and looks like a smart hire and looks like he's about to turn this franchise around. So kudos to you, Jeffrey Lurie. You did something right. Coming in at rank 21, previously ranked 26, I have Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals, super hyped offense coming into this year. Lots of question marks around the offensive line. Like I mentioned previously, Joe Burrow was sacked 5 times in the first game. Like, it's only been one game. This kid's already getting hit 5 times, which is not good. But Jamar Chase broke out finally, didn't worry about any drops. Joe Burrow probably gave him a little pep talk before the game, told him how good he is, reminded him of their LSU days, and Jamar Chase came through. T. Higgins came through. Joe Mixon came through. When the offense is clicking, they could beat better teams than they are. Or if that makes sense. They're not a great team, but if that offense is clicking, they could beat teams that are better than them. That's a better way of putting it. Coming in at number 20, previously 25, the Las Vegas Raiders. I think this is going to be a one-week thing. The Raiders go out and beat one good team every year, then suck. That's just how John Gruden is as a coach. He's not a good coach. He never has been. He has a career win percentage of 39%. This is the dumbest hire I think you could have ever done. Like, Mike Mayock will get fired by the end of the season. But I have to give them props. Derek Carr balled out yesterday. I think he threw like 450 yards. Something ridiculous. Darren Waller is an absolute monster. He is one of the, if not the best tight end in the NFL. I know people are going to say it's crazy because Travis Kelce exists, but he is definitely better than George Kittle. Like 100%. But I put the Raiders at 20 because I really don't believe it's sustainable. Coming in at number 19, previously 10, I have the Colts. The Colts just did not show anything yesterday besides Jonathan Taylor's ability to run the ball. That's it. Carson Wentz didn't look great, didn't look terrible, but I mean, they did play the Seahawks. But they didn't flash in any way. That's why I dropped them 9 points. 9 spots. They didn't flash anything. They didn't show they do anything special. So for those reasons, I'm dropping the Colts down. I think their defense is still superb. I think they're still a great team all around. I think they're going to move back up, but for me to have put them at 10 and for them to play like that, they need to earn their way back to 10. I think they're still a playoff team. I think they're definitely going to still win the division, but they gotta earn it back. Coming in at or going teams 12 through 18, coming in at rank 18, previously 22nd, I have the Dallas Cowboys. Even though the Cowboys lost, and I do believe that the game they played against Tampa will be the best game they have played all year, or all season, the thing that stood out to me as to why this team will be successful and win more games than it should is the creativity on offense. Their offense already outclasses almost every other offense in the league, but when you add creativity to that to develop explosive plays, it makes them that much scarier. The only thing that concerns me with the Cowboys is their defensive stats were inflated. It's not confirmed that they could stop a run because the Buccaneers did not run the ball after Ronald Jones fumbled and Leonard Fournette took a headshot from Tom Brady and had and the ball bounced off and was intercepted. So it's not confirmed that they could stop the run. And the Dallas Cowboys, I think this is the stat. It's very close to this if I'm wrong, are 0-18 in games they do not score 30 points or more. So, or at least 30 points. So that's kind of a concern because you're really riding on your offense to just outclass everybody, which will work. It'll definitely work in the NFC East. But I I don't know if that's sustainable, and that's my big concern. Coming in at rank 17, previously 21st, I have the Denver Broncos. Teddy Bridgewater looks like he's the best quarterback looked like he is the best quarterback that the Broncos have had since Peyton Manning against the Giants. The Giants have a very good defense, and they kept that defense on the field they dominated the time of possession. Absolutely dominated. Every third down, I think they probably converted about 70% of their third downs and were 3 for 3 on fourth downs, which won them the game. Teddy Bridgewater, Pat Shurmur designed a great offensive game plan, a lot of play action, a lot of rolling out, a lot of moving the pocket. Unfortunately, Jerry Jeudy did suffer a severe high ankle sprain and is out for like 10 weeks, which is going to hurt them. And being in that division, you can't really afford that type of setback. Plus, the division, the whole AFC West won every single game. Broncos, Raiders, Chargers, and Chiefs. But the Broncos look really good. I had their defense as a floor of top 9. I think they're going to be top 10. But their defense looks very good. And they won without Bradley Chubb. So, not that they contained a very challenging Jason Garrett offense. But hey, whatever. Coming in at rank 16, previously 14th, I have the Tennessee Titans. The Titans just got blown up by the Cardinals. And the Cardinals were a team that I thought were going to be limited by their coaching and could only be carried as far as their team's talent. But we're going to talk about the Cardinals when we get there. But this Titans O-line looked horrible. They looked bottom of the barrel. Their offense wasn't gelling at all. Derrick Henry couldn't run for anything. They just looked bad. Every aspect of the Titans looked bad. And I only moved them down 2 spots because I know Mike Vrabel is a good coach and I know this Titans team is talented and they're going to be better. But for this week, I have to move them down. Coming in at rank 15, previously 12th, I have the New England Patriots. This was a game that I kind of had the Patriots pegged to win. Or didn't have them pegged to win. I thought I did, but when I checked my schedule breakdown, I did have Miami coming and beating them. However, I still think the Patriots are going to be very good. I think Mac Jones needs a little bit of time to get into the swing of things, being that he just played his first game against arguably a top 10 team in Miami, if not just outside of it. So I'm not going to crush them too much. They really did lose the game because of a Ramondre Stevenson fumble and the Damian Harris fumble cost them the game. It wasn't anything Mac Jones did, which is a very good sign. And Bill Belichick's good. I have confidence Bill Belichick will give this division a run for its money for the division title with what he has. So I'm only going to move him down 3 spots. The Packers come in at rank 14 and plummet down from 9. The reason why I'm not going to crucify the Packers just yet is because they do this every year where they have really bad stretch and then they all sing Kumbaya and come back together and go to the NFC Championship and lose. But for right now, Aaron Rodgers played literally the worst game of his career. If Aaron Rodgers had spiked, this is a real stat. If Aaron Rodgers had spiked the ball every single snap, he would have had a higher pass rating than what he finished the game with. So there's that. Coming in at rank 13, previously ranked 6th, Baltimore Ravens. I have to move them down, not because of how they played. It's more so because of the injuries they have sustained. They have lost. They are the 49ers of 2021. They lost Marcus Peters, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, so many players to injury already. ACL tears, Justice Hill, Achilles tear. If I'm if I am John Harbaugh, I am duct taping or bubble wrapping Lamar Jackson and just rolling him around in practice. I'm not letting him get hurt or risk ever getting hurt. But then coming in at number 12, previously ranked 17, I have the New Orleans Saints. I had no idea what to make of the New Orleans Saints going into the season. I trusted Sean Payton, but they dominate. Jameis Winston threw 5 touchdowns on a good secondary. The Packers have a very good secondary. They can't stop a run, but they do have an above-average secondary, and Jameis Winston dominated them. Absolutely dominated. He threw 5 touchdowns. So, Saints, their defense is still good, and this offense looks good. So for that, like I gotta respect the Saints and move them up. But coming in at rank 11, I have the Miami Dolphins, previously ranked 13. Tua looked better. I'm not going to say he looked great yet, but he looked better from what he was in 2020. And that's what you want to see from your franchise quarterback. That's why with a lot of the franchise guys, I kind of give them the benefit of the doubt in just show me you can get better each week. Because then I can say, okay, well, you just need time and the pieces around you. But for someone who's stagnantly mediocre or average, time to move on, in my opinion, after like 2 seasons. But for Tua, he is taking steps. They're not huge steps, they're not leaps, but he showed that he was moving in the right direction. He looked more comfortable, took a few deep shots. It's all right. We're going to give him time. Ranked 10, previously 16, Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a team. I think I'm going to do it this week, but I will release my potential upsets for the week. And the Steelers were one I had last week, just because I really do think TJ Watt is like the second best defender in football behind Aaron Donald, and he showed that against the Bills. I mean, he literally was unstoppable against the Bills. And I have been saying for as long as this account this channel has been alive, the Steelers' offensive line is not going to be as bad as it is being said it's going to be. If that makes sense, but they need to. It was hard for them to establish the run, and it was hard for them to protect Ben Roethlisberger, which is going to be a big deal because they have a top 5 defense, but you need to be able to move the ball offensively, and you need to be able to run the ball, and it'll come in time. I do think it'll come in time, but the Steelers. I will say I never doubted Mike Tomlin, which is why I even had them as high as 16, because I am a huge believer in coaching is one of the biggest recipes for success in football. Like, you need good coaching, and Mike Tomlin is so consistent that it was very hard for me to put the Steelers below 16, and now they move up to 10 because they beat an AFC Championship expectation team in the Buffalo Bills. But coming in at number 9, previously ranked 7, San Francisco 49ers. The reason I moved them down is because they didn't look as good as I expected them to look. And they did kind of let Detroit almost come back into that game. It was 8 points, and then Jared Goff was driving down the field. If they had any other quarterback, I would argue that, well, not any other quarterback, but if they had half of the other quarterbacks in the NFL, maybe they win that game. So for those reasons, I got to move San Francisco down. I want to see more Trey Lance. He's not ready yet, but after that game, I'm ready for Trey Lance to take over this team. Coming in at rank 8, previously 11, I had the Seahawks a lot. I looked around and fact-checked myself to make sure I was keeping it, not saying anything too crazy. So I looked at some other power rankings, and people have the Seahawks ranked 3rd. And I think that is absolutely nuts because the Seahawks do this every single year. They either come out on fire or they catch on fire halfway after Thanksgiving. So I'm only moving them up a little bit. I expected the Seahawks to be this good. Russell Wilson literally is clockwork with this stuff. He does it every single season. But they looked good. Tyler Lockett looked really good. DK looked really good. The defense looks better than I think people are going to give it credit for. But coming in at rank 7, previously 15, is the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray looks like could be the MVP of this season. He looks like he should be in the top 5 quarterback conversation for the year. I mean, it's 1 week, so let me calm down. But the most impressive thing about Kyler Murray is he had a perfect passer rating against the blitz. That's nuts. That is actually insane for him to be that good under that amount of pressure. Granted, this is arguably the most talented roster in the NFL. They are severely, severely, severely capped by Cliff Kingsbury, who's one of my probably top 3 biggest fraud in the NFL. But they looked incredible against the Titans. The Titans are a good team. That's why I moved them up this high. They dismantled the Titans. So I got to give the Cardinals props. They look incredible. I think they're excuse me. I think they're about the second best team in the division. I think we'll talk about who the number 1 team is, but They're not on the screen, so you could expect who it is. But coming in at rank 6, I have the Chargers. I think that Justin Herbert is just incredible. And if you're any team that has a bad offensive line and drafted before the Chargers, you are literally punching air right now that they have Rashawn Slater and your team doesn't. Rashawn Slater, might be the best tackle in football, and he's only played one game. He was literally flawless against a Washington front. He's that good. So, Bengals, Giants fans, you are easily punching air right now. And Justin Herbert, the most impressive thing to me is why I'm going to move him up to rank 6. I know a lot of people still want to see more, but Justin Herbert, I think, was 13 or 14 for 16, or of 16 on third down, which is the hardest down in football. You're expected to throw, and everybody knows you're throwing, and Justin Herbert pulled through every single time. That is impressive against a very good defense in Washington. Washington has kept opponents below 20 points, down the back 6 games of 2020. They are a very, very good defense, and Justin Herbert picked them apart. He didn't score, they didn't have a high-scoring game, but to be that composed on third down, that is an elite trait you want to see in your franchise quarterback. So for those reasons, I got to move the Chargers up to rank 6. And with being that they now have their franchise left tackle, they are only that much more deadly. But top 5 teams. Coming in at rank 5, previously ranked 4, I have the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills are still going to be really good, but that is a game that kind of whoa, you guys lost to the Steelers. No disrespect to the Steelers, but I think everybody had the Bills favored to win that game, and that Steelers defense locked them up. And the thing, the things that are bad, the bad thing about a game like that is teams can now watch that game tape and see what worked against your offense. And the Bills have one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. That's my concern for the Bills. I think they're talented enough to outclass most of the teams they play. Their biggest weakness is they need to be able to run the ball. And they can't do that with Zach Moss, who never plays, and Devin Singletary, who's a complimentary back. My personal prediction is they go out and get Josh Jacobs from the Raiders in 2022, but that's neither here nor there. Coming in at rank 4, previously ranked 3, Cleveland Browns. I've been saying this all along, if you followed the channel, that Baker Mayfield is the biggest weakness on this Browns offense. And when the game was in Baker Mayfield's hands, the Chiefs literally sighed in relief because they're okay, we won. Baker Mayfield leads the league in fourth quarter interceptions amongst all quarterbacks entering the league or who have been in the league since 2018. Baker Mayfield, why I do not believe in Baker Mayfield, and I think he's one of the most overrated players in the NFL. The dude is on the best roster in football, and when the game comes into his hands, when Baker Mayfield has to make a play, he throws an interception almost every single time. When Baker Mayfield has to act, I would take Zach Wilson, who I am very low on, to make a play over Baker Mayfield, and Zach Wilson has played one game. That's how little confidence I have in Baker Mayfield. I think if you put any other quarterback, almost any other quarterback in the league, like Ryan Tannehill or Matt Stafford or really just throw anybody out there, I think the Browns are, all but 5, the Browns are Super Bowl favorites. Their roster is that good. They had a 16-point lead on the Chiefs, and Baker Mayfield couldn't manage that game. All you have to do is take a 3-step drop and give it to Nick Chubb, and you're good. You win the game. But because the game came down to Baker Mayfield to make a play, they lost. This is why one of my hot takes, and it's kind of catching some traction, is that if Kevin Stefanski was in the war room in 2018, he was not drafting Baker Mayfield. He would have taken Josh Allen or Saquon Barkley or Quentin Nelson or someone else and not Baker Mayfield. Sam Darnold even. I'm 100% confident of it. Coming in at number 3, previously ranked 5, Los Angeles Rams. I'm super high on the Rams this season. They are one of my favorites to win the NFC. I think it's going to come down to them and the Buccaneers. And I think that we saw everything. Everything I believed the Rams could be was shown in that that Sunday night game. Matthew Stafford now adds what the the Rams were missing in 2020. Jared Goff has a noodle arm, and Matthew Stafford just can take the top. Like, there is no part of the field that Matthew Stafford cannot reach. And when you have someone like Cooper Kupp, who just takes the tops off defenses, probably one of the best, was underrated deep threats in the entire NFL. Matt Stafford is going to throw for over 300 yards on you every single time. So, and like the Bears do not have a bad defense by any means. So, Rams are that much better to me. I could be wrong. They really didn't run the ball that much, but I'm very high on the Rams. And then coming in at previously ranked 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. Very impressive comeback win over the Browns. But that's the thing. Like, that's why Patrick Mahomes to me is that good. Is because no matter the point differential, he's going to win the game. It does not matter. He will come back. He will fight back. I mean, the best example is that Super Bowl run they had in 2019 when they were playing the Texans in the AFC Championship, or the divisional round of the AFC Championship game, of the AFC playoffs. The Texans were up 28 points or 21 points on the Chiefs, and they came back and won the game. That's why Baker Mayfield will not get paid. I think that the Browns are going to try to trade Baker Mayfield, because you can't, like, if Baker Mayfield had just led one fourth quarter game-winning drive against a team with like the same caliber as the Chiefs, it's a different conversation. But he had his moment, and he threw a pick. And, like, that's what he does. It's consistent. It's clockwork. He throws picks in the fourth quarters when the ball is in his hands, when he has to go make a play. It happens every single time. That's why Kevin Stefanski probably, if the Browns had lost to the Steelers in that wild card game, they would have moved off of Baker Mayfield. I don't think they would have picked up the option. I firmly believe that. But coming in at previously number 1, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I don't think there's any reason to move them. They played probably the worst game they will play all season against the Cowboys. I think that just based off of the demeanor of Tom Brady and how he was handling himself during the game, and like just seeing all of the mistakes they were making and all the penalties they were making, he went out and reamed some people in practice the next day or the following, whenever their next practice was. Tom Brady is someone who demands excellence, and what the Buccaneers went and put out there on the field on the season opener was not excellence. It was not perfection, and that's going to change throughout the season. But those are my Week 2 power rankings. We're going to put a video out like this every week. If you liked what you heard, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for checking out the channel. We're going to post videos like this every week. Fantasy videos coming out this week. We have our start, sit, sell for Week 2. That'll be out on Thursday. And we have a bunch of other content plans for this week. So hit the little notification bell on the channel to see when these videos come out. Podcasts every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday fantasy episodes and Thursday NFL coverage episodes. But that's going to do it for me. That's going to do it for the Pylon Cam for today. Check out the fantasy episode that released yesterday on YouTube or Spotify. But catch you next time. Peace.